everybody. Welcome to Real Horror. We are talking about Hannibal Season 3, Episodes 1 and 2 tonight. And joining me, as always, for these episodes, I have Vinny with me. How you doing tonight, Vinny?
Good evening. Yeah, we're hanging in there.
Yeah, I know. I get that.
Yeah,
Hanging in there. Well, I'm happy that you're here, and
me too.
superfan Adam Strahan uh, had his got in first with a comment. He says, "I see an old friend. I think I'll have for lunch." And also slay that like button. I've got that pinned as usual, Adam. Thank you for that. And manliness. Um, Welcome. This is my only day off this week, and I'm spending it with you guys.
Oh,
Well,
fantastic.
dude, thank you so much. We appreciate that. Love having you here.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so first episode of season 3. What did you think of it?
Damn good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole European stuff is just it's extra awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, when we get to episode 2, yeah. Um, I can't remember if I've been to that church. I went to a few of them down there when I went like almost 20 years ago, and yeah, we'll break more into that as well. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, there are a ton of catacombs over there. Um,
Yeah. I wanted to I wanted to find out like if you had seen like any of these places.
mhm.
Um yeah, cuz man, yeah, that church is absolutely beautiful and
Yeah,
um
That's one of the smaller ones. There's two
wow.
really big famous ones that are in Palermo.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, like they competed on who had the better church, so they
Mm.
would keep bringing more amazing things like the marble and the statues and oh, you name it. And almost some of them even look gaudy as shit because they put so much in there, but
Yeah.
it's because they were trying to top the other church.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
wild.
that's it's kind of a theme with Catholic churches anyway, is that they're very ornate and decorated and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
And yeah, like a lot of Protestants kind of like don't understand why Catholic churches are like that, because Protestant churches are very utilitarian. It's not like
Hmm.
you just go there to worship. It's just, a building, that's it, nothing fancy.
Hmm.
But the Catholic churches is very old world style with all the it's very intricate with the artwork and everything like that. And it's I personally, I love it. Um I was raised Catholic, so I was used to that design. I mean, our church was nothing like the churches in Italy.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah,
Some
like
of them are just completely jaw dropping.
yeah, like nothing like that, but they were still very beautiful, like with the stained glass and everything like that.
Yep.
And yeah, so I'm used to seeing that. So yeah, it was this episode particularly is very aesthetic.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. The directing is amazing too in this. They got an Italian director to come in and do these first couple.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, you could tell too because they went more with the even the cinematography. It felt more like the movie Hannibal,
Yeah,
the one where he is loose in Europe.
yep, I picked up on that as well.
Yeah.
And Milliness says here in Middle America the churches are a bit more mixed. All right.
Hmm.
um yeah, like we've got pretty much like one or the other. We've got the Catholic churches, which are more decorated, or we've got the very utilitarian churches.
Right.
Unless you go to like a different church, like a or Greek Orthodox church or something like that, that's totally different.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, the stuff that they did in Europe is just it's astounding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
captured everything that we needed, I think, out of the series.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. This episode is just absolutely beautiful. We we start off, we see Hannibal riding his motorcycle through Paris. And I like this scenery because it's at night, it's nighttime, and it's, you know, the cityscape. You see the Eiffel Tower and everything, and he's like cutting through the city, and it's 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 nice looking.
Mm-hmm.
And he stops at like this. What is this function that he stops at? I,
I wasn't sure, to be honest.
yeah, same here. I didn't really know exactly what this function is, but
I mean, the one guy, he's got like a book thing going on, right?
yeah, it's like celebrating some kind of book. Yeah, it seems like they're celebrating an author or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
He celebrates him in his own way.
yeah, yeah, and like the theme of this particular like opening is he keeps saying like bonsoir, like
Mm-hmm.
you know, like the nighttime greeting in French.
Yeah.
Literally means good night, and yeah, so it's like it's funny because he keeps like he greets this man like this, and we don't know the name of this man, and it actually doesn't, well, at this
But,
point it doesn't matter.
yeah, he's the one that had the book, isn't he?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's not the first guy who kind of greets him when he's in there. That guy we see
no,
later.
yeah, yeah, like there's this guy who greets him, and then they're talking, and like and they're talking about the guy that they're celebrating, um and it's kind of they're kind of like dissing him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um and yeah, so
Like the people who they these intelligent people, they always do that. They think
mm,
they're smarter than whoever is the one who they're kind of praising or there for. You know,
yeah.
it's something
Yeah.
that's a common theme, I think, with a lot of those intellectuals, air quotation,
Mhm.
because they all have ego.
Yep. Absolutely. And yeah, you can definitely see the snootiness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, big time. And then as Hannibal is, well, we see the man exiting the function, and Hannibal greets him, and they say bonsoir to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see the man drive off in his car, and Hannibal follows him on his motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
And then the man gets home, and there's Hannibal there at this man's house, and
Yeah.
he greets him again, bonsoir, and they say
Yeah.
bonsoir to each other again, and it's
Well,
kind it's comical.
it is because it's yeah. Oh shit. Yeah, because he beats him home.
Yeah,
And the guy, when he does greet him, because he's just leaning on his motorcycle with his helmet in his hand again, and
yeah,
the guy's like, "Bonsoir,"
yeah, yeah,
and then and they just zoom up to Hannibal's face, "Bonsoir,"
yep,
like completely ice cold with
yep.
that serial killer look in his eye.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And then yeah, because the last thing we see at that point is Hannibal just like walking over at him, and then the next thing we see is sort of like a flashback. Real quick, I want to say hello to Tommy.
Hey, Tommy.
Hope you're doing well. Nice to see you. Um,
Oh man, I was
and
just saying, yeah, those churches, yeah, they're really beautiful. As you
oh
look off to
yeah,
the Thorn Crown Chapel. Wow,
yeah,
nice.
we'll
Yeah,
definitely
we'll
have to
have to
look
look
that
that up.
up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll star that so we don't forget about that. Yeah, we'll look that up like towards the end of or at the end of this episode
Mm-hmm.
and look that up because yeah, definitely wanna that will look awesome. Um, yeah, and then it's like a flashback, and well, it is a flashback, and we see Gideon sitting at Hannibal's table, and he's this is where he's like being served himself by
Mm-hmm.
Hannibal, and they're talking about how cannibalism was standard practice once upon a time, and Hannibal says, it's really only cannibalism if we're equals, and and that was that kind of goes back further in, like maybe the beginning of season 2, where um he's where Hannibal was kind of being like snobby about how he's better than Chilton and everybody. He's like
Right.
smarter than everybody and stuff. So he doesn't see anybody as his equal.
Right.
Um
Hey, he's a true monster.
yeah, he's absolute like narcissist, like actual narcissist.
Yep.
And Gideon says, that he actually doesn't need to be eating. He can just let himself die. And then he says, but at this point, why ruin the fairy tale?
Mm-hmm.
And Hannibal says, yeah, let's let it be a fairy tale then. And then it goes, and then Hannibal says, once upon a time, and then it transitions to color as he says that.
Right.
And it's it's funny. And so now we're in Florence, Italy, and we see Hannibal and Dr. du Maurier. I'm just going to call her Bedelia from now on because it's easier.
Okay.
Yeah, so we see, they're there together, and this guy walks up to him, and this guy is a dick. Professor
The guy with the beard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce his name? Sagliato?
I'd have to see it. I don't remember.
Well, he's some professor, and he walks over to Hannibal, and he's like, and he addresses Hannibal as Dr. Fell. He says, Dr. Fell, I hope you translate as well as you waltz, because this particular segment started off with Hannibal and Bedelia waltzing, and then another man walks over and says, our new appointee was confirmed to the board after questioning, and he's talking about Hannibal. Hannibal is now confirmed to their board, and this guy, this professor, says, you've examined him in medieval Italian, and he says, and I won't deny that his language is, and he looks him up and down like ogling him, and then he says, admirable. So we know that he's attracted to Hannibal. Let's just say that. And but he's not. He's very stoddy, and he says, I bet if you were holding a note from Dante himself, referring to Dante Alighieri.
Yep.
Yeah. That you wouldn't.
The Inferno, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. That he like Hannibal wouldn't recognize it, and and Hannibal, and of course, this challenges Hannibal's ego, so he actually starts to like say the first, like, Alighieri's first sonnet, Dante's first sonnet, and he says it in perfect Italian, and this stuns them. and yeah, and like this guy gets a little bit humbled, not enough, but an interesting part of this is that the sonnet that he recites about talks about the how the like eating of the heart is a powerful image, because in the sonnet the heart is presented to I think the heart's presented to Dante, or is it the woman? I can't.
I think it's the woman that he ended up betraying.
Okay.
Beatrice.
Yeah. One of them. Yeah, one of them gets the heart, and he's talking about how that's a powerful image and everything. and that professor guy says, if he's such an expert on Dante, let him lecture on him, to the studio. And he says, let him face them. And Hannibal interestingly says, well, I'm happy to sing for my supper. Yeah, that was that was
great.
good.
Yeah, they're very witty with all of those type of lines.
It's subtle. It's very subtle.
Yep.
And then next we see Hannibal and Bedelia. They're in this very opulent home. They're in they're in Italy, and it's just it's absolutely beautiful. There's
Hmm.
it's very ornate. It's a lot like the church in a way.
Yeah.
How ornate and
It must have cost them a lot to film there.
oh my god, I was
These,
thinking that.
yeah, these first two episodes. Maybe that's another reason too why they clipped the show. Too
Oh
expensive.
yeah,
There's a lot of grotesque stuff in it.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I'm sure that there was writer strikes and shit too around that time. But yeah,
That's right.
it didn't take much for them, to blow off course and be like, oh, we can't do it anymore. Let's clip the show.
Mm. Yeah, especially if they were going to stay like filming like in those kind of locations, that would
Yeah,
be very expensive.
yeah, because I don't a lot of this season I don't remember as well.
I don't remember it at all.
Yeah, so I don't know how long that they do happen to stay in Europe. That I'm
Yeah.
unaware of, but
Yeah.
I mean the first two episodes they're there. I mean you
Mhm.
could see it, and boy does it look beautiful too. How a lot of those shots,
Yeah. Very.
hmm and even the actors and stuff they're picking,
Yeah. Yep.
very good.
Very. And so they're talking, and Hannibal remarks how he's hardly killed anybody during, his residence there, and she says that he's created a vacancy by killing the curator, and she's referring to the real Dr. Fell,
Hmm.
the identity that Hannibal is assuming right now.
Right.
Um, and he shrugs it off. He's shrugging this off as no big deal, and she says that he's really just only concerned with aesthetics right now, and he's not interested in ethics. And he actually doesn't even dispute that. He pretty much kind of leans into that, and yeah,
Hmm.
and and then he asks how she's feeling today, and she's preparing a bath at this point, and she says that she at this point feels like she's in control of her own thoughts, and says given his history, that's a good thing. um but you can kind of see that there's a little bit of like what she's saying doesn't really fit the way that she's holding herself. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
it's it.
Yeah, Bedelia, she's questioning a lot.
Mm,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, because I like how they do this and how we start to get into how she got into this position to begin with.
yep,
Because like the last that we saw her before we saw her on the plane was she's basically like she's given up everything to Jack and Will
mm-hmm,
at the bureau, and like he's dangerous and everything, and so yeah, how they get there is really interesting, and I like how they do it because it almost looks like, oh, at first that they kind of do have like this perfect life together,
yeah,
until she's by the bathtub, and you know she sinks into the tub, and now she's starting to it's getting to her in a big way.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, when she gets in the tub, how she like goes under the water, and we see uh, her sinking. Like she's sinking down into a lake, like
Hmm.
she's drowning.
Yeah.
And that's like clue that's how she's feeling. She's feeling like she's drowning.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
And
because normally you take a bath to relax, and she's
yeah,
instead of relaxing, she's getting more tense and questioning
yeah,
everything, all the decisions that led her up to how she's there with him right now.
yep, yeah, exactly. Yeah, because then she comes to, like, she gets her head above water and she's kind of like, not gasping for air as if she was drowning, but just kind of like, oh man, like surprised and shocked and stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
like she had just woken up,
yeah,
like literally, not just from that moment, but literally, she just woke up. Like, what the hell did I just do?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's wild, definitely wild how they did that.
Yeah. And then we go to it's not, well, yeah, it's kind of a flashback, but yeah, it is a flashback. We see her sitting in that interrogation room at the FBI with Jack, warning him against believing that Hannibal, you know, isn't in control. Like, she's warning him, like, if you feel like you're in control, you're
Yep.
not. Hannibal just wants you to feel that way.
Hmm.
And so this is going through her mind. Um, so it's like she's reminding herself.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
She's like I said, she's going over all the situations and what she had said and what is going on, and
Mhm.
yeah, because I'm
Yeah.
sure a lot of people were scratching their heads, for people who aren't that big of fans or really understand what happened in that like last scene.
Yeah.
Because like, why would you be with him? Like, I'm sure they got a lot of that kind of stuff going on. Since she's
Yeah.
supposed to be so smart, knowing all that. Well, for me, it feels like it's a bit of survival as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next scene,
Hmm.
um, it kind of explains a bit of it, because
Hmm.
uh we see when, okay, so we see her go to her house. So remember when she covered everything in her house with that cloth and everything, and she just left her perfume and she left the house.
Yep.
um well, we see her go back to her house, and this has to be, I think this was right after everything happened with, like,
In
the,
Hannibal's kitchen.
yes, right after Hannibal's kitchen, exactly.
Yeah, it's
um
where he went to clean up,
yeah.
sort of like a safe house.
Yep, yep, he's in the shower cleaning up, and so she's sitting on the bed and she's got her gun, and he sees her and he's like, "Well, can I get dressed first?" And she's like, "Yeah, go ahead." And she's like, "What have you done?" And he's like, "Well, I took off my person suit." Because, like, when we first meet her, she talks about how he just wears a human suit, that it's just a facade.
Hmm. Yep.
And yeah, so he says, "I've taken off my person suit," and she asks how that feels. And he says, "Well, you can't really be asking me that since you're no longer my therapist."
Hmm.
And she apologizes for not providing him. She says,
What a suitable replacement. Yeah.
yes, yes, suitable replacement for therapy. And she says, "Is Will Graham still alive?" And he says, "Will Graham wasn't a suitable replacement for therapy."
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
so
that was great.
we don't like, yeah, we don't know Will's fate.
Hmm.
And yeah, and you can tell by the way she's carrying herself that she is very much uneasy around him.
Hmm.
Um, but it's like she has no other option. Like, there is nowhere to hide from him.
Yeah.
Th- this what she does is her only option.
Hmm. Yeah, because he says it too to her.
Mhm.
Oh shit, what was the line exactly? Uh, if he's shit, what was it? If she's fearful of him, or fuck, I can't remember what it was.
Mhm.
But like he put her in that position, and about trusting
Yeah.
Like, do you trust me, or
Yes.
are you still fearful of me? And I believe she says she's still fearful of him, or
Yeah.
like there were two ways that she had said it, like kind of like she's leaning one direction, but she doesn't fully trust him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like a both kind of scenario.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like, yeah, she's definitely, you can see she's in survival mode.
yeah, but I
She's,
think it's also because of what he knows of her
yeah.
and
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
the thing with her patient,
Yep.
because we do get into that as well, which is cool that they show that.
Yes.
We heard about it for a season and a half.
Yeah, I know. I know. Finally,
Mhm.
like this episode is awesome because we do get a lot of exposition in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like
and a
that.
lot more about her that we were questioning as well.
Yep. Yep. And then in present day we see her going into in this shop in Florence, and she's like, there's oddities there. There's like some taxidermy, but there's also like bread and wine and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
she
it's
goes,
almost like a specialty kind of
mhm,
like supermarket thing.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
like you
she,
said, there's more exotic stuff.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, she gets her, she gets like what, like a couple loaves of bread and some wine or something.
I think white mushrooms.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were. She was very specific in what she ordered, because she goes
Mhm.
back there again later and she orders the same thing.
Yeah. And yeah, I have a theory on that.
Mhm.
Real quick, Oz says, I'm here, but I'm very tired, so I may just lurk. That's all good.
Yep,
Yeah, happy to have you.
absolutely.
And okay, yeah, then we see Hannibal is working, and it looks like they may have reused the Baltimore State Hospital, because those booths, like, it looks like the same booths are there.
Oh wait,
But
where was this again? What scene? Sorry.
it's where Hannibal is working, like um he's he's in this like he's in this area and he's working at a desk, and ahead of him are those square booths on each side of him, and it looks just uh like a redone set, like what they used for the Baltimore mental hospital.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? But it
Yeah, yeah.
looks repurposed.
Yeah, oh, it could have been.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's Hollywood, so they're gonna if they can reuse stuff, they will.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It just, that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, reminiscent of it.
Yeah. And then we see him like walking out, and someone is getting his attention as he gets outside, and um he says, "Hey, Mr. Jackoff, is it?" And like that name, I laughed.
Yeah.
He says, "We met in Paris a few months ago."
Mhm.
And Hannibal says, Anthony Dimmond, and he's like, the guy's like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
And
never forget a face is what he said.
yes,
With
the guy
Hannibal.
Anthony, I never forget a face. Um and
Yeah,
then
that
they're,
doesn't sit well with Lecter.
no, not at all. This is very like,
Mhm.
because everybody there thinks he is Dr. Fell.
Yep.
And here's this one guy knowing his true identity. What, like, we can't have that.
Hmm.
So they're talking and all that stuff, and Hannibal says, my wife and I would love to have you for dinner. Um, take that in both ways.
Right.
And and then um and then we see okay, so then it's a flashback, and we see Hannibal preparing parts of Gideon is there watching him. And it's wild to see this, because like it's in that area, kind of like I think it's under Hannibal's house, and because it looks kind of dungeony in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's snails like on Gideon's arm, and he's like marinating the arm in wine and stuff.
Yeah, the severed arm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hanging there.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like the uh, what do you call it? The snails are feasting.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's wild how they did that.
Yeah. It's it's absolutely crazy. And then we see, the three, Bedelia, Hannibal, and Antony are having dinner, and Bedelia's talking to him, and uh and and then they talk briefly about Dr. Fell and his wife, and Bedelia is kind of, she keeps giving Hannibal like these looks, like, I can't really describe them, almost like disapproval, but not completely. It's
She's massively uncomfortable.
yes, it's very discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
She's not aware truly what his intent is
yeah,
that evening.
yeah,
And then there's something that he points out too, because as they're eating, he goes, "Oh, you don't eat any meat," and she's literally just feasting on like the mushrooms that she bought, and like dates and something else. There's a
yes.
couple of things.
There were three things in particular: oysters, acorns, and marsala.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, and he says, he remarks, and he says that's what like the ancient Romans would feed the animals to improve their flavor.
Mm-hmm.
And and then she says, my husband has a very sophisticated palate.
Yeah.
He's very particular about how I taste. And Anthony kind of like looks at both of them, and he goes, "Oh, is it that kind of party?"
La Passion. Pulling Angel Batista there.
Yep. And,
Sorry, we got a Dexter reference there.
Dexter reference. Yep. And she
you got to
looks
reciprocate, Dexter. What do you mean, La Passion?
Passion. Yep.
Oh shit.
And she looks at Hannibal, and Hannibal goes, "No, it's very much not that kind of party." And
the guy's disappointed.
because he goes, "Oh, that's a shame, because I was just finding you two very fascinating."
Yeah.
And
was funny.
yeah, and then at the end of the night, they say goodbye, and she's like, "I'm surprised you let him go." And he goes, "What would you have me do?"
Mm-hmm.
Like it's her idea.
Yeah. Yeah. They close the door, but as he says it, he just like walks past her, like dismissive towards her.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you could see, like he could see that she's slipping. She's not doing what he wants.
Yes.
Necessarily, and the look that Hannibal gives her as well when the guy notices she's not eating any meat. This disdain and disapproval of her completely.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's very like almost like he had just noticed, like, yeah, and we know he knows everything, he notices everything.
Yeah.
But at that moment he's like, yeah, like it's interesting. Like he just gave her that look like, yeah, how come you're not eating my meat?
Yeah. 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 The passion. For real though. But hey Tony, how's it going? Nice to see you.
How you doing,
Hope you're well tonight.
Right.
And then we see Bedelia walking through Florence, and it's just beautiful. Like
oh yeah.
Yeah, like that plaza that she walks through, and the cobblestone and everything. It looks so pretty.
I don't know.
And
I wanted to visit there for the longest time. I never got a chance to go there.
I know. Oh, there's so many places I'd love to see in Italy.
I have as Ezio. And from what I understand, it was very accurate.
Really?
Oh yeah, that game is beyond accurate to certain locations, and even like the size and scope of everything, and how far away certain landmarks are from one another. Yeah, it is surprisingly accurate.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I like that.
Yeah, back when they cared.
I know. Um, yeah, so we see her stop in that same shop as she did earlier, and she gets the same stuff, and and you can tell. Oh yeah, and then she stops at like this train train station thing, and she's looking at the camera, and you can tell that like what she's doing, she's trying to make sure that people see her.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, which is really
it's
interesting. It's like 'cause she's aware of what's gonna happen to her soon.
yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
when she this time, yeah, when she orders her, her was the mushrooms and the oysters and stuff, whatever.
yeah,
Um, she's more. You could see there's like a nervousness about her and uh, very uneasy kind of. You can hear the shakiness in her voice.
yeah, absolutely.
Because the first time it's way more confident and like she's having a great time, and this time it's like that fearfulness is setting completely in every aspect of her life.
Hmm.
Because she's essentially she's a prisoner.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. You know she's questioning all of her decisions ever since she met Hannibal.
Yep.
Yeah, it shows.
Yeah, because she's not a dumb character,
No, not at all.
So
Yeah,
that's why it's very interesting how they did all this.
yeah, yeah. I think of all people that may be close to being on Hannibal's level, he probably considers her the closest
Yep.
so far.
I still
Um,
say Will takes the cake, but yeah, she's a close second.
yeah, yeah. As far as clinicians, it would be her, and then yeah, Will is definitely
Yeah.
on a different level for
Yeah,
sure.
I think once Will came into his life, he took the cake. I think before
Yeah,
that, it might have just been her.
yep, yep. I
Um,
agree.
yeah, because you could tell like he kind of he traded up in a way from her to Will.
Yep,
His intellect and how they've sparred in those first two seasons are, yeah, it's something else.
yep. And Malinus says that his mom went to Italy back in 2010. That's awesome.
Nice.
I would love to see those pictures.
Hell yeah. I went
And
in 2007, I think it
oh,
was.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't get to see like yeah it's above Sicily. I did not get to see above there.
yeah, yeah. Oh man, yeah. I would love a trip to Italy and see like all the places.
Oh yeah, same
Um,
here.
and Tony says, I bet Hannibal would have been a bit more chill on the eating people thing if Breath of the Wild existed back then.
Well, for this show, I think it wasn't it already out.
Uh, I have no idea.
What year was this show again?
That's why you asking me hard questions like that. Hold on.
All right, I'll look.
You look up that. I'll look up Breath of the Wild. Thanks
Yeah,
a
it
lot,
should have
Tony.
been. This 2013 wasn't Breath of the Wild like what 2010?
Hold on. I'm
This is
Googling
13.
2017. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. So
So
yeah.
by the time the third season ended, which should have been around 2015, yeah,
Yeah.
they were probably still like halfway in the making it. Oh, you're right, Tone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Oh man. Yeah, thank you for making us do research, Tony. But
we're dumbasses.
and then okay, so then after that, after we see her looking directly at the surveillance cameras, so then we go back to the moment right after she was attacked by her patient. So finally they show us what they've been talking about for so long, and we see her, she's laying on her floor, and her patient is also laying down. And yeah, like this was right after the attack, and the patient's dead, and Hannibal is there, and she says to Hannibal, he was your patient before he was mine. And she's like, I know what's going on here. And of course he deflects and says, well, he was under your care when he did this, so
Mhm.
obviously it's your fault. But we know that he psychically drives his
Yeah.
patients. So
Yep.
yeah. So yeah, so this has me like scratching my head with her, because if she knew right then and there that he probably set this whole thing up, why did she ever keep seeing him? Why didn't she just flee, like get out while she could?
I think it's part of it is because of the past that they had together like that, and that she did murder someone, and he, he basically helped her with that.
And
Um,
she had him, he had her under his influence.
yeah, there's all of that, and
Yeah.
then there's that moment where his mask had fallen, and they're looking for him now, or whatever. I think part of it too was it was a titillating experience for her. Almost like the chick who loves the bad boy.
You
I
think?
get
Yeah.
I got those vibes when she's pointing the gun at him, and she could have shot him or whatever, and doesn't. You know
That
what I
is
mean?
true. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's almost like she's almost cheering him on that he could get away.
Yeah, because right then and there, she could have shot him and that would have been self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So,
Um,
that's why when she wakes up in the bathtub, like, she realizes how absolutely retarded she was.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then yeah, in this scene, so he's helping her clean up and everything, because she's got blood on her from the attack.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I'll help you, all you have to do is ask. And she then asks for his help. So that's the moment
Yeah.
right there.
Mm-hmm.
That yeah, started her
Yeah.
journey with Hannibal.
Hey, did you notice the body?
What about it?
It's actually it's another bigger TV actor. Well, he was in movies too. That was Zachary Quinto.
Okay, so I didn't notice that, but I noticed in the credits that he was in there.
Yeah, that's who he was. He's the
And
patient with the tongue he choked on there.
okay, because I was looking, I was like, where the heck is Zachary Quinto or Quinto?
Quinto, I think it is.
Yeah, whatever, however you pronounce his last name. I was like, I didn't see him. Where the heck? So yeah, that makes sense. He was the dead patient.
Yep.
Um.
So yeah, I'm sure we're gonna get a scene or two with him
Mhm.
before his demise.
I hope so. Yeah.
You don't
That
just
would
hire
be
someone
cool.
like that to lay on the floor.
I know.
Especially at the time, because he had Heroes, and they were putting him into the Star Trek movies and all that.
Yes. I think Heroes is where I met him as an actor.
Yeah, he was the big serial killer.
Yep.
Which they should have kept him in the dark, and when they revealed him, it lost a lot for me.
Yep, I agree. But at any rate, so then we see Hannibal giving his lecture on Dante, and because when they had their dinner, him, Bedelia, and this guy Anthony, he was telling him, you should check out Dr. Fell's lecture on Dante tomorrow or whenever, and so he shows up. So at this point, he doesn't know that Hannibal's impersonating Dr. Fell.
Right.
So, so here we are now. Hannibal's given this lecture on Dante and all that stuff, and this was also a really cool scene. So Hannibal is in between the projector and the screen at one point, and it stops on a picture, an artistic depiction of Lucifer with the in Hannibal's face is replaced with Lucifer's. Oh my God, Lucifer's face, and you
Like
see
the
the
eyes
wings.
that match up. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was an awesome image.
It was. That's a powerful visual what they did.
Yes.
And when she sees it, when Bedelia sees it, she's like in panic.
Yeah, yeah,
She's not just sitting there uncomfortable. It's like she's literally having a panic attack. And yeah, when they pan back to her, she's gone.
yep, yep. And another thing that was really cool about this part where Hannibal's doing this lecture thing is he starts showing Judas's crucifixion. And remember, Judas is the one that betrayed Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the depictions, the artistic depictions of Judas, is his bowels are hanging out. And that's exactly what he intended for Will.
Mm-hmm.
And I also remarked that when Will said, "So this was like this will be like our last supper."
Yep.
So he sees Will as Judas and him as like
Mm-hmm.
God or some weird. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he sees himself as God.
Yeah, he's demented. So
Yeah,
yeah, very
and
blasphemous all around. But from what's it, Brian Fuller said as well, like he's upset that like how he wrote it to it. Yeah, that Will Graham betrayed Hannibal.
yep,
Yeah, the what's his name, Hugh Dancy's like,
yeah,
excuse me,
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
you on crack?
Yep, yep. Oslas pointed that out last week
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
there was like an interview and Brian Fuller was crying about Hannibal getting betrayed by Will.
Yeah,
Like wait a minute,
homie, I
you
think
got
you
the
got
wrong
something
guy.
wrong. Yeah,
Yeah. And then okay, so at this point we see Anthony in the back of the theater. He shows up and he then realizes that Hannibal is the one giving the lecture, so now he knows that Hannibal is impersonating Dr. Fell.
mm-hmm.
And he did they had talked about his disdain for Dr. Fell. So this kind of, the, it's interesting when they end up talking after the lecture is over,
Mm-hmm.
because first that professor guy, the snooty professor guy, goes up and is all like applauding Hannibal and everything, and says that everybody loved it and all this stuff. Um
Did
and
he try to
then
give him an extra jab, and then the other guy defends him?
yes, yeah, he did. Yep. Yeah, he can't let his snottiness go. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and that surprised Hannibal, because Hannibal kind of looked at him like, oh really?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then he says, oh, do you know Dr. Fell? And Anthony says, yeah, he was my teacher's assistant at Cambridge. And Hannibal's looking at him like, this, no shit. And he goes, oh, the tales that I could tell. And the professor guy goes, oh, please do tell. And Anthony goes, but what kind of friend would I be?
Right.
And then that's over, and Hannibal and Anthony are walking through the place, and they're looking at those medieval torture devices, which looks really cool, actually.
Yeah.
And he says that he's curious about what happened to Dr. Fell, and he's not broken up about it. And he actually, and Hannibal says, you'll have to strap me to the breaking wheel to get that info. And Anthony says, well, obviously you found him as distasteful as I did. And Hannibal goes, on the contrary. So meaning Hannibal found him quite tasty.
Uh-huh.
Oh my god.
Oh shit.
And then Anthony's like basically saying, I think I could keep this secret and it would benefit both of us.
Mm-hmm.
We know that's not going to fly, because
Yeah, he doesn't work well with that type of stuff.
No.
If someone finds him out, he wants to remove them because it's easier that way.
Yep. Will for all intents and purposes, in his mind, has burned him. He's not going to make that mistake again.
Nope.
I mean, he's already kind of playing that game with Bedelia.
Right. And this guy looks a lot like Will.
Yeah. Yep.
I'd say, kind of. Yeah.
And yeah, so you had mentioned that Bedelia hightailed it out of that lecture, and we see her. She has a bag packed, and she's heading for the door. And right before she gets to the door, Hannibal and Anthony walk in, and she just freezes like in her tracks.
Yeah.
And next thing we see is blood flying. And when I first saw this, I was like, oh, that's the end of Bedelia. But next we see is Anthony is actually down on the floor, and he'd been, bashed in the head. And then
he used the bust.
Yeah, he uses a bust from his desk and bashes him in the head with it. And Hannibal asks her, "Are you observing or participating?" And she's like, she doesn't really know what to say. And as she manages to say observing, and he says, "Well, yeah, you say that, but did you know this was happening? And could you anticipate all the
I thought at first she said what, and then he repeated himself more sternly.
Yeah.
Like he's putting her in her place, and because she completely zoned out. She's still in shock at this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. She was absolutely in shock, and then and then she manages to say observing, and then he's like, "Yeah, well, you say that, but didn't you anticipate our actions and everything that would lead up to this?" And she says yes, and he says that's participation. And then we see Anthony crawling towards the door, like slowly, like barely getting there, and then Hannibal goes over and pulls his chin up and breaks his neck that way.
Yeah, he breaks his neck like upward and backward, kind of.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was pretty violent. Just hearing it, and like his kind of how he was holding his face, and they panned up and away.
Yep. Yeah, it was nuts. And we see Bedelia. She sheds a tear, and Hannibal says, "Oh, what have you gotten yourself into, Bedelia?" And then he says, "Shall we hang up your coat?" And he doesn't even address the fact that she was on her way out.
Yeah.
He's
as she's taking it off, just still in complete shock.
Yep. Actually reminds me of Abigail in a way.
Yeah. But it really seems like this is the very first time that she actually seen him kill in person.
Yeah. Okay, so then we see another flashback, and we see Hannibal cooking the snails that he had raised on Gideon's arm, and he's serving them to Gideon and everything. And Gideon, Hannibal asks, would you prefer not knowing that you're going to be eaten? Because Gideon, they're talking, and Gideon is basically like, saying how weird it is to know that he's being, eaten. And Gideon says that, no one actually feels more powerful. And he says, but I'm fascinated to know how you feel when this happens to you. Implying that this same thing is going to happen to Hannibal.
Yeah, because it's throughout the episode, every time they keep having these flashbacks.
Yep.
Gideon keeps saying it to him.
Yep. And then we see Hannibal, he's riding a train, and we see him folding a piece of paper, and it's that man that Da Vinci drew, that that naked man thing.
The what the hell? He's almost in a wheel, and you see his. Why can't I think of the name of it right now?
I know, I can't either. But yeah, it's that man where, his arms are like out and down, and
Yeah, and the legs as well.
yeah, yeah,
It's like his like your regular static pose, then like a T pose kind of thing.
yep.
Um,
Yeah, whatever that's called. He's folding that piece of paper and he does this origami thing and he makes it into a heart. And we see then we see like this giant heart in a in that in like the chapel place. Um yeah, it's like I think that's where it is. It's like in the middle of the
it's in that it's in that chapel.
yeah,
In the circle specifically with like
the,
the skeleton.
the praying skeleton, yeah.
Yeah, the one that was like in his office.
Yep.
He had the same one there.
Yeah.
Vitruvian Man, that's what it is.
Vitruvian Man, thank you.
Yeah, that was driving me bananas.
Me too. I'm gonna write that down. That was driving me crazy. All right. So that episode, that was a very different kind of episode because it didn't follow the same kind of segmented formula that the episodes in the rest of the series had followed up until that point.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very much focused on aesthetics and setting, scenery, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, even in the end too, like that, it looks like a gigantic harp.
Yep.
That's sitting in the chapel. Like how they did that is just
Yep.
It was pretty gross.
And it makes sense because he was talking about the Dante's first sonnet, which deals with the eating of the heart and the imagery behind that and how fascinating that is, and so it's kind of like the heart was the theme of the episode in a way.
Yep.
All right, and then so episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a little more on point, like on formula where other episodes have been so far. So it opens with a flashback to the last episode of season 2.
Yeah.
And we know all of that, everything that happened there, and where he kind of looks over after Abigail dies, how he looks over and he sees that stag die in the kitchen as well.
Yeah.
And
this
then
time they added more to it.
Yes.
Like, as the stag is dying, there's like blood pouring out from underneath, and it becomes that water.
Yeah.
That when Hannibal, when he says, "Yeah, all you have to do is close your eyes and lean back and wade into the water."
Yeah.
Like it's all that kind of thing, and and again, it's horribly sad as well because it's like that whole moment where he's holding Abigail, and you see the blood pouring through his fingers from her jugular that was cut.
Yeah.
All of that, and as he's bleeding out as well. And then he sinks into the water, much like Bedelia did in the first episode, except she goes backwards and he's already on his stomach going straight down.
Yep.
Yeah, it's wild stuff how they did this.
Yeah, I like the parallels, how they both sink.
Mm-hmm.
The teacup, we see the teacup shattering, because he has like this analogy of, like he had said in one of maybe the last episode, can't remember, about how he wishes that sometimes when a teacup shatters that he could put it back together again, and we see the teacup shatter and but it's in reverse. It it comes back together.
Yeah, because
And
he said that in the previous season.
yes,
Because Will had made the analogy, and Hannibal basically, like when you see Abigail there, that he goes, "I did it, Will. I did.
yep,
I put the teacup back together."
yep,
But then he takes it again.
yes, yeah.
Yes,
And
yeah. So
when
this time when you see the teacup that had shattered, it's coming back together again, and you can see that it's like forming a face, and it's Will's as he wakes up in like the hospital bed.
yep,
Like, that was wild.
yes, yes, it was
So
not,
good.
this was nice.
Hmm.
So okay, so yeah, at that, so then a doctor says, well, there's someone here anxious to see you, and it's Abigail,
Hmm.
and she walks in, and it shows like Will kind of, okay, so we see Abigail. Okay, so we know her throat is cut, but it kind of like it goes in reverse.
Hmm.
Um and and then and then she says that the doctors showed her how surgical her cut was, and that Hannibal wanted to keep them alive. And Will tells her he left us to die, and she's like, yeah, but we didn't. And she says he was supposed to take me with him, and her eyes kind of looks like she looks like a psychopath. She always did to me anyway. But
Yeah, and this one, like when we see her, she looks more done up than we've seen her previously.
mhm,
Especially the last time we saw her, she was in complete fear.
yeah,
But she was still doing everything that he told her to do,
yep,
that Hannibal told her to do. And here now she seems more like put together, kind of.
yeah,
Um, but it's just the two of them talking, and how she says, "Yeah, the doctor said that it was very surgical how he did it, and he didn't mean for us, that he wanted us to survive this." Like
mhm,
that's what she kind of articulates to him,
yep,
and how she still wants to be with him.
yep, yep. Yeah, she's advocating for him, um, and yeah, she's like, he wants us to find him.
Hmm.
And then yeah, he's like, after everything he's done, you would still go to him. And she, that's, she's
She's
like, yeah,
nodding yes. Yeah.
yeah. And then we see Will wake up, and we see a knife, so we can see that this is obviously like a nightmare. And because we see the knife that Hannibal uh cut cut his stomach with coming out of his like bandages on his belly.
Yeah.
um and his hospital bed is actually in Hannibal's office.
Hmm.
um and then he gets out of the hospital bed, and we see the papers falling um down like through the air in slow motion. And that's from when they were cleaning out Hannibal's office, and Hannibal was just kind of like throwing pages down to be burned and all that stuff.
Yeah.
um and
And as
then
that's going on, like Will's getting dressed.
and well, he grabs one of the pages in midair, and he sees it's the messed up clock that he drew.
Yeah.
And then as he's looking at it, a fire burns a hole through it, and then we see the notes about, his notes on the fire, just like they were in the episode where he burned them.
Yeah.
um and yeah, I like that. It, like, that looked awesome.
It did.
And
And like he's almost like in what was it, in Scrooged, when they take him to go see his past, his present, and all that. Like
yes,
he's in the room with himself, like that, the slightly younger version of himself there. When that moment happened with him and Hannibal, or they're burning everything. It's not present day. It's whatever, months prior, or whatever it was. Or like, yeah, what, like a month prior. And yeah, and like he's standing there watching their conversation.
Yep.
of that going on.
Yeah, it was awesome. And yeah, and then so remember in that episode, Hannibal, well, they actually showed in right here in this segment as well, where Hannibal is mentioning, like when he's done with this place, he'll have his palace of his memory palace.
Yep.
And he mentions the palace in Palermo.
Mhm.
And Will, and he describes it like there's a skull on the floor and everything. And as Will, is observing this go on, he looks down at the floor and sees like he sees that skull on the floor, and then he looks up and he sees like the palace like architecture and the like how ornate it is and everything.
Mhm.
And then it cuts to Will like lying in his actual hospital bed, and he is contemplating that place,
Yep.
like he's figuring out
Mhm.
where Hannibal is.
Yep.
And yeah, so then and then it cuts. It says 8 months later, and then we're at the Norman Chapel in Palermo, Italy.
Mhm.
And we see Will and Abigail walking through the church. And as they're walking through, Abigail looks at this priest that's in the church, and they kind of like hold each other's gaze for like a few seconds, as if they know each other.
Mhm.
And then she asks, Will, if he believes in God and everything like that. And they talk a lot about God in this episode.
Mhm.
And he says, that what he believes is closer to science fiction. And she says that everybody knows that God won't help anybody. And Will says God won't help because it's inelegant. That's his design.
Mhm.
And she's like, "Are you talking about God or Hannibal?" And he says, "Hannibal is not God." And he says Hannibal wouldn't have any fun being God. Defying God is more his speed.
Yeah.
And then Will looks down and he notices that skeleton with the praying hands on the floor. And he says that Hannibal would love to see this roof collapse mid-mass.
Mhm.
And then
And
he
as
says,
he looks up, you see the ceiling's got
yeah,
a massive crack in it, and like some of like the dust from it is falls onto his hand.
yes, yep,
It's pretty cool. Like he had just witnessed it or something, you know. That,
yeah,
like part of this world is crumbling yet again.
yep, yep. And then we see that the heart torso thing mounted on the easel in the middle of the chapel, and then the crime scene investigators from Italy are there, and
Mhm.
um, Will and Abigail is standing there, and she says, "Is this him?" Talking about, is this Hannibal? And then the chief investigator, his is Ronaldo Pazzi, and he has to speak to Will. And so Will is at the police station,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah. The younger guy. He says that
yeah,
he sees Will, and yeah, he points over. Voy parlare con lui. And he's like, what? He looks like, what did he say? He goes, he wants to talk to you. Come with us.
yeah, and then yeah, so as the inspector says, I've read all about FBI profiling methods, and I've read about your incarceration and everything. And Will says, "Well, keep reading because I was acquitted."
Mhm.
And the inspector says, "It's interesting you come to Palermo and right after that, a body is discovered,
Mhm.
and in and the priest at the chapel, and he says that the priest at the chapel says that he's been spending a lot of time there, and Will goes, "I've been praying."
Mhm.
We know that's not true.
Yeah.
And then that inspector Inspector Potsy goes, there's comfort in prayer, and it helps you feel like you're not alone. And then another officer kind of says, like, he says, "Come with me." And then as he's leaving, that he Will sees Abigail standing there waiting for him.
Mhm.
But he's stopped by the inspector, and the inspector is like, you you come here, and then there's a dead body, like, which came, like, what are we to make of that?
Mhm.
And then we find out through their conversation that he actually does what Will does. He has that gift of imagination.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
um
that's what he tells him.
yeah, yep. And he says, "You know who did this?" And Will says, "Don't you know?" And the inspector says, "I met him 20 years ago," and
Mhm.
he calls him Il Mostro,
Yep.
the
Which is the
monster of
monster.
Florence.
Yep.
Yeah,
Which
and
is great because yeah, when he shows him, because he shows
yeah,
him a photo of him, and yeah, he's like, what is he, like 20 years old there or something?
yes, he looks, he exactly looks 20 years younger. They did a good job on that.
Yeah. I think we
And
just got a photo of him when he was younger.
I was wondering that too.
It
I
had
was,
to have because that
yeah,
was too perfect.
yep, it was.
But yeah, he shows him a file, and it's
Mhm.
a Botticelli painting.
Yes, and yeah, it talks about how he arranged the victims
Mhm.
just like in that painting, the Primavera.
Mhm.
And like, he was on the case, and he would go to the museum, or or whatever it was,
Oh,
and study the painting like day after day.
yeah, drawing it,
And
redrawing it and stuff.
yep, yep. And then he um this ended up actually being his downfall, because the like the cops or whatever, they raided Hannibal's place looking for evidence, and Will says he doesn't leave evidence, he eats it.
Yeah.
um
But
and
they've found someone else who had not a good man, but he had bad character, and because of this guy who was kind of not so nice or whatever, had his own criminal record, they just pinned everything on that individual without getting
yep,
proper evidence or anything.
yep. And what not, well, an innocent man, as far as
That
these
crime,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, he was innocent of these crimes. He went to prison for this.
yep.
Yeah, so
Much how like Will was getting the frame job in the other season.
yep, exactly. Um, and uh, and then he hands. Okay, so then he gives Will this new crime scene, the new crime scene photos of that body, kind of staged as a heart.
Hmm.
And Will starts imagining how the body was, the bones were cracked, and the body was bent and
Yeah,
twisted.
it cracked all the limbs.
Yep,
Uh,
yep,
yeah, it was pretty. It's crazy.
yes. And the way that he folded up this body and twisted and everything to make it look like like this huge heart.
Yeah, because
It
that's the
was,
thing. Like he loves these ornate kind of things. So we know from the other seasons, and like
yep,
what he did to that one couple where he recreated part of that painting. And that's why he goes. I know it's the same guy. They know it. Whatever. That's why they even went back to the chapel, and he gave him the photo of the heart because at that point they already moved the body out of there. So like yeah, all this is happening in Will's head. Like he goes into he zones out, and it looks like the heart starts to beat
Oh, yes.
That was so cool.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. Wild, wild imagery going on. So, yeah.
Mhm.
So he imagines it unfolding, and then the torso is it's like an animal on the floor, and it's growing antlers out of its neck.
Yeah, because like the heart, as it's beating, it starts to unfold, and you
Yeah.
see like the arms, the legs, like the whole thing was kind of like sitting on what would be like the pelvis area, and
Yep.
like it unfolded almost like a flower, but it
Yep.
has no, yeah, it had no hands and no feet. It was just the limbs itself that were kind of all folded up. So when it unfolded, yeah, like you said, you see like a hoof comes out of like where the wrist wound would be
Yep.
on both of them, and then yeah, on the other side, and yeah, the antlers are coming out of where the head would be.
Yes.
Oh, it was so creepy. And then it's walking towards Will.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. It's
Yeah,
yeah,
oh,
and then
clearly.
Will's backing away,
Uh-huh.
and there are steps in back of him, so he stumbles,
Hmm.
and then Abigail gets his attention. She's like,
Yeah.
"Will," and he comes out of it, and interestingly, she's walking towards him
Hmm.
um just as that monstrosity is also walking towards him.
Yeah,
Um
as if yeah, the stag is still alive, kind of deal.
yep. And then he's like, he's rubbing his face, and he's like, I do feel closer to Hannibal here.
Hmm.
And says that uh he left us his broken heart.
Hmm.
And he says that he knew we'd come, and she says that he misses us, and Will says he's playing with us.
Hmm.
And he goes, "Do you still want to go with him?" And she says yes. And then he's kind of pondering. He's like, what if nobody died? What if we went like with him like we were supposed to? Where would we have gone?
Hmm.
And she's like, another world. And Will says, a place was made for you in this world, and it's the only place I could make for you. And then we see where her throat was slashed. It starts bleeding out,
Hmm.
like pouring blood.
Yeah.
And then the camera pans back, and we see that it's just Will. Abigail isn't even there.
Yeah, because he goes, it's the one thing I wish I could have done was giving you a world of your own.
Yep.
That's what he said. When
Yep.
then you see this moment, man, you realize completely that yeah, she's been a figment of his imagination the whole time.
Yes.
And like
That's a huge reveal.
yes, us as the viewer had no clue
Yep.
that yeah, because we're like, wait, she survived that attack again? Like that was her jugular, and that was a lot of blood in that in those episodes. But
Yes.
I got a glimpse of that when she walked into the hospital when you when someone was here who wants to see you.
Hmm.
I had a feeling that whole thing had to be in his head. When I first saw it because I'm like, she's too done up. She like the last two times we saw her, she was very disheveled, very pale,
Yeah.
and here she looked too good.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Very life. Like there was a
yeah,
lot of life in her, and
too much life.
healthy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
had the scar in the neck, but we still didn't see her ear either because the hair was down the whole time.
Yeah.
We we
True.
on- we saw a piece of that on the episode when he does take her out. Uh,
Yep.
you know, but yeah, no, it was wild how they did it, and you could like your heart almost breaks for both of them again.
Yeah. It's oh my God. It's so wild because okay, so I had a sense of no way because I do not remember season 3 at all.
Uh huh.
And I was like, no way. And then I was also like, thank God, because I don't want any more Abigail storyline.
Yeah.
I really do not. But
No, I let her rest.
yes, yes, we got to move on from that. And
Right at this point, yeah. But it makes
yeah,
sense that it's kind of almost like his driving force of why he even went there. You know,
yeah.
because he still wants
Oh,
to
yeah.
catch him, and there's a lot that's messed up completely with that whole situation.
Well, I mean, and we hear like from the investigator says later on, he says, you carry the dead with you.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously one of those people is Abigail.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
loved her, like he considered her like a surrogate daughter.
Yep. He wanted to do better for her. That's why
Yeah.
he was still haunted by her.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah,
and all that.
he'll always carry her.
Oh yeah. I mean, I like how they did that. It's almost like, yeah, like Dexter and his foster father.
Yes, absolutely.
Same deal. You know.
And then as okay, so that's what we see as the camera pans out, that there is no Abigail sitting next to him, and then it pans, and then it looks up and we see like the beautiful, the church is beautiful, ceiling and everything, and it kind of pans over to the side and we see Hannibal watching him from like up above.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that was wild. I didn't expect that either.
Yeah, he's peering down at him from one of like the window ways, and it's like it makes sense because he said it to the detective too. He goes, he's still here. He knows he's still in Italy. He didn't, because where'd he go to next? And he's like, he's here.
Yep. Yeah. And Osla says, I just realized this is the stag coming back to Will after it died in the kitchen. When Hannibal left, it died, and as Will finds him again, it comes back. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the stag is back.
Yep. So we talked about earlier. Yeah, that sea of blood.
Yep.
That poured from it and everything as it was dying out. But yeah, this is a weird kind of resurrection of it.
Yes. Very. Oh man, it was wild. It was awesome to see.
Yep.
In the next scene, we see it's a flashback kind of, or kind of like a fill-in of the past, where we see Hannibal and Abigail being carried off. They're both being carried off by stretchers, but
Will, you mean Will?
But no, both of them.
No. Will and Abigail. You said Hannibal and Abigail.
I'm sorry, Will. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, and Will and Will. I almost did it again. Will and Abigail being carried off by stretchers, and Will obviously, they're working on him to keep him alive, but Abigail gets zipped up in the body bag, so we know that she's definitely gone. So this isn't ambiguous. She is definitely gone.
Yeah, and the way they did it too, because we're seeing like both of them, like as they're patching him up, they're doing the opposite with her. Like they're sewing her throat back up. They're like they're checking his eyes, but hers they open up and they put like that little piece on top of the pupil, like when they're about to
because eyes sink in when they're preparing a body for a funeral, your eyeballs will sink in and it
to the skull. Yeah,
so they put those things on to make it look like there are eyeballs behind the eyelids.
Yeah.
It's so we see this kind of dual scenery where they're keeping Will alive and they're preparing Abigail for embalming and funeral. And it's sad. And then next we see, because it kind of like we see Will lying in in that chapel area, the church, like on the church steps. Inside though, there's steps inside, and the inspector guy walks over and asks if he's praying, and they discuss like prayer and all that stuff, and Will says, you should be praying that Hannibal doesn't catch you. And Will ask, if you weren't able to catch him when he was a kid, what makes you think you're going to be able to catch him now?
Right.
And the inspector goes, well, I have you now. And then as like Will's looking off kind of towards the side, the church, and it leads to the catacombs, and he sees light flickering. It's like candlelight flickering.
Yeah, it's like the steps leading down there.
Yeah, and he sees in his mind's eye like blood, like there's blood on the floor, like it's
Yeah,
get
like seeping
yeah,
from outside in,
yeah,
like from underneath the door.
yeah. Um, and it's it is actually a lot like when he went into Hannibal's kitchen, and where Jack was in that pantry and there was blood coming from under the door.
Yep.
It's it's a lot like that. And and he says that he's like, you should let, if you can, let Il Mostro go because he will kill you.
Yep.
And Patsy says, um, he let you know him, and he sent you his heart. Where has he gone? Like, basically, like, Will, you must know this. There's something in you. You must know this.
Mm-hmm.
And Will says that he hasn't gone anywhere. He's still here.
Yep.
And so Will knows where to look, because the next thing we see is Inspector Potsy in the catacombs, looking around, and as he's searching, um he he kind of not actually bumps into Will, but they meet up.
Mm-hmm.
And Will says, you shouldn't be here alone, and Patsy says, I'm not alone, I have you. And Will says, you don't even know what side I'm on.
Mm-hmm.
And
And as he says that, yeah, you see one of the catacomb walls that's kind of out of view, and Hannibal's leaning on a wall listening.
yes, yeah, okay, so yeah, they're talking about like how they carry the dead around, and Will, very kind of rudely, I thought, said, you and your dead should go back up to the chapel, like telling him. I know he's telling him for his own safety, but it is
Yeah.
kind of rude.
Mm-hmm.
And Patsy says, you're already dead, aren't you? And then Will backs up, and he kind of gets engulfed by the darkness.
The shadows, yeah.
Yes, that was good vision. Like, that looked good.
Mm-hmm.
And then he walks in. That's when we see Will did it again. Hannibal standing there, and he's listening to everything. Patsy goes up, so Will is standing there, and he goes. He kind of calls out for Hannibal. He says, and then pauses, and he goes, "I forgive you." And Hannibal stops, and that catches his attention.
Yep.
And then that's it. That's how the
Yep.
episode ends.
Yep. That he finally, he said it. He said that he
Yep.
forgives him basically for Abigail.
Yes, because when right before he slashed Abigail's throat, he said, "Will you forgive me?" And Will was like, "No, don't, no, don't."
Yeah,
And
because he knew exactly what he was going to do. That's when
yeah,
he put his hand out towards her, and she came over, and he just whoosh.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and
It was still heartbreaking to see again, because it's like, oh my god, she did such a great job in that performance.
yeah, very.
They did a great job with the casting and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Because like throughout that whole thing where we think that she's there, or like they kind of wanted us to think that she's still alive, she seemed so out of character. She didn't seem like, again, how the last few times we saw her. It's like, well,
Yeah.
why would she be leaning towards him again? She wasn't. It was all that thing of, had they not died, would she have still been enamored by it? Would she still have done all this? Because
Mm-hmm.
like he was still missing a lot of the pieces of the puzzle as well.
Yep.
Because he didn't know the full situation. He didn't know that she's responsible for making Alana fly out the window.
Yeah.
All of that.
And I actually I think that Will still struggles about how he feels about Hannibal as well, because like on one hand he hates Hannibal because Hannibal is detestable, but on on like there's this small part of him also that is still curious about Hannibal. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like, like he was, even though Abigail, was saying, I still want to be with him. I think that is actually part of Will's subconscious also still wanting to be with Hannibal as well.
I'd say sort of. I think it is also the thing of the catch to actually get him. But I am curious though to see. Yeah, I mean, because I don't remember a lot of this either.
Yeah,
I think I remember the very end, but yeah, leading up to all of it, uh, yeah, I'm still kind of in the dark. I
yeah,
don't fully remember the season.
yeah. And Osla says, I think the fact that Will forgave Hannibal after everything in Mizumono, the the last episode of season 2, illustrates that Will really is kind of too far gone. At least at this point, he's not really going to stop chasing Hannibal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely, he's not going to stop.
That's why I like what they did with this, because like they did incorporate a whole lot, and they merged like all the books or the movies,
Yeah,
however you want to look at it. Because like yeah, Patsy there, that detective, he's the one that is in the Hannibal movie. I think is played by Giancarlo Giannini. Um, and yeah, I again don't know how much you remember of that,
I
but
don't.
he was a detective who I think he had that encounter earlier with him as well. Like these are characters they're using now from the other films and stuff. So I thought that was pretty neat because I do know his demise, that I remember, of what happens to him. Yeah, it's again everything they're doing. It's crazy. It's like they blended everything together. Like that Brian Fuller, man, what a fantastic writer he was with all that.
Yeah, totally awesome.
You know.
And Oslas, it seems like Oslas is kind of thinking along my thinking. Um, Oslas says, I think Abigail was Will's subconscious telling him what he wanted. He just wouldn't listen to himself or really anyone else. He wanted to go after him so badly that he needed someone to convince him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where I'm thinking Will is at as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, this is going to be wild because I don't remember any of this.
Yeah.
I think I remember some of the last episode, but even there, like not really,
Mm-hmm.
not really. Like I images from it. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how they did everything, and it's so well written. Everything about it, like it's still to this point, we're in the last season. I know they had to know that their days were numbered,
Yeah.
and yet they're still giving us like this top quality.
Yes.
Because every single episode is like film quality for sure.
It really is.
Nothing's phoned in. Nothing's kind of so. No, it's all solid.
Yeah, yeah, no, I was gonna say that like they didn't get lazy at all. They could absolutely have gotten lazy.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, we're only 2 episodes in, but we can see so far that like everything is right on par with the, like it's still very aesthetic. The writing is still strong. Acting is still right, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everything is great. They didn't get lazy at all. So far, like we'll see, but I have a feeling we're gonna really enjoy this season.
I think so. You did leave out one part when Hannibal is on the train after after taking out the one dude, like snapping his neck back, and he was just left there with Bedelia. Later, we see him on the train like he's fleeing, and beside him on the floor is that same bag that she was leaving with.
Oh, where was this?
It was after he had. I think they show the heart the very first time they show the human heart thing.
Yep.
And they make it sound like, or they made it look like he was leaving town completely because he's like on a train.
Yeah. Yeah, I mentioned he was on a train.
Yeah, well, it was there. You see the bag that is beside him or on the floor next to him. It's the same bag that she was leaving with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so it
didn't.
is implied that he had taken her out as well. That
Okay.
that's why I thought at first when I saw the heart that it was both of them merged together,
Okay.
but it wasn't. It was just one.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't pick up on the bags being the same. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
All right. Yeah, that's important.
that brown leather bag.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, thank you for adding that. Yeah, I didn't pick up on that at all.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I was like, oh shit, because like, where does he go at this point with her? Like, she's done.
All right. I'm writing that in my notes. All right. Well, yeah, that was important, so I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, because I think the only other times that we see her now, I think it might be in flashbacks. But again, I don't fully remember because I do know that we do see some of that Zachary guy. Is it Quinto or what the fuck his name is? I know that we get more of those moments. I could be wrong, but I know that bag was there, so it's like an implication that she's gone. But again, I don't fully recall.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll be unfolding this, and yeah, Oslaz says, well, first 2 episodes of season 3, beginning of the end, guys. Yeah, I know. Gonna
Do
be.
you, yeah, Oslo, do you remember it in detail, like all of this, or as we're talking about, you kind of remember more? Because it's really strange. Like stuff like this would stay with me a lot longer. I don't know why I completely like it just left my brain.
Yeah, I know. Same.
You know, as
Oh,
I'm
okay.
watching it, it's very reminiscent.
So,
Okay,
like it was yesterday. Awesome. That good memory.
nice.
Yeah. Like I have to. My memory's terrible, but
I haven't seen it since it aired, so that's why like a lot of it I
mhm.
don't fully recall. And at the time, again,
Yep.
when you're juggling so much stuff, it's
Yeah.
hard to retain a lot, you know.
Yeah. Same here. Yeah, I haven't seen it since it was on. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So Oslaz says there are fine details I can't remember, but yeah, mostly it's pretty clear. All right. Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah. I would have to watch something many times for something to be that clear, or it would have to really be memorable in some way. Like
Mm-hmm.
something would really have to stand out.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing that we're watching Dexter. I've seen it a couple of times over
Yep.
already, but with this, like, there's still things that's still like, oh yeah, I forgot that, or oh yeah, I kind of know what's coming up in this scene. Like,
Yeah.
there's certain things like, yeah, while I'm watching it, but with this one, it's a little different.
Yeah, I know. I know exactly what you mean.
I think it might be because of all the artistry that they do and the visuals they keep kind of changing. I think that's what's kind of, it's not as linear.
Mm.
I think maybe that's why too. And then like, yeah, we do get a lot of flashbacks, so that could be part of what's kind of throwing us off a bit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, still really great stuff all around.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Yeah. So earlier, Manliness said, look up Thorn Crown Chapel in Eureka Springs. So I want to do that real quick.
Yeah, I put it in the private, the link
Oh, I didn't. Sorry, I didn't see that.
for the Google.
Cool. All right. Oh wow, that's beautiful. All right,
Yeah,
let me pull it up. All right. Wow, look at that.
That's stunning.
Wow.
You know how
Beautiful.
everything's crisscrossed like that. It almost looks like it's medieval-ish in a way.
Yeah, it's kind of like a cross between medieval and modern.
Yeah.
Wow, I've never seen anything like this. And is that outdoors as well?
It might be all glass. That's. I don't know. That's a good question.
That is beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. It would have to be glass all over. But the appearance that it is outside.
Yeah, it is glass. Yeah,
Nice.
Millina says it's glass.
That
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I love stuff
Wow.
like that.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for that recommendation. I'm glad we looked that up.
Yeah. What state is that in? Arkansas?
Arkansas, yeah.
Wow.
Very nice. Very nice.
Beautiful stuff.
All right. Well, that concludes the first 2 episodes of season 3.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this was a lot of fun. Loved these episodes, and yeah, looking forward to getting into more with you.
Yep.
And
And
yeah.
that was a bold strategy too, how they did the opening. The
Oh
whole
yeah.
first episode, no Will. This is all Hannibal and Bedelia.
Yes. Oh, I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking, oh, I don't know how I'm gonna like this season if there's no
Will.
there's no, yeah, like I couldn't imagine it just being Hannibal and Bedelia the entire time.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I need Will. I really need Will in this.
Because I didn't recall her being in the entirety of the season.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why, like, yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah.
I believe the name of the 3rd episode is actually Secondo, which is second.
Second, yeah.
So,
second
yeah.
in Italian. Yeah. Are all the names in this season Italian? Like,
that's a good question.
I think all the ones in the first season were Italian as well, weren't they? Italian dishes.
Well, no, wasn't the in season 2 was all like Japanese?
I mean, season 1 weren't they all Italian dishes?
Oh, that's another good question.
And then season 2 was all Japanese. No, still no elephants, manliness.
No, yeah, we did. Yeah, have a statue or something.
Yeah, we got that woolly mammoth in the Museum of Natural History. Yeah.
There you go. Let's see what. Yes. So the first season was all dishes.
Yeah, Italian dishes. Yeah.
Yeah. The second one was, I think, all Japanese ones.
Oh, wait. So Asla says he thinks that it had French as well. So was it? I mean, it doesn't really matter. I'm just curious.
With 3, don't look forward. Just I'm
not.
Yeah, it's up to a certain point where it is they're like the main courses and whatnot, or we have antipasta, primavera, secondo, like they did it like that, and then we get a big one that it's not a dish.
Okay.
Yeah, and the last couple of them, I'm not looking forward into it. I'm just kind of looking at the names real quick, but yeah, and the next couple of them after that are they're not dishes anymore. It's
okay.
Yeah, it's story basically.
Yeah.
But that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love how they did it.
Yeah.
I'm still so pissed off that we didn't get a 4th season because of the bootlegging stuff, the people doing the high seas in Europe.
I know, it sucks. But I do remember, like, okay, so a lot of people were unhappy. Were a lot of people unhappy with the way the series ended, or is that just Dexter?
I think it was just Dexter.
Okay.
Because it was, again, and it's the very, very end. It's like the last 20 minutes, essentially, of...
Yeah.
Because to me, up until that point, I still loved it. Like, that season was still good. I know a lot of people, they weren't crazy about the mother-like figure who kind of helped shape the Dexter.
I was fine with all of that. It all fit the story.
Yeah, for me it did as well. Like I didn't have any major issues, and like I said, the book takes a massive, or the show takes a massive detour from the books.
Okay, so I can see people being upset about that.
But see, here's the thing: I say the TV series was better. Um,
Really?
yeah, it's tough because I know by the third book, I didn't get the third book because of what I heard happened in it, and it became more of like a weird cult thing that happened, and then like they went in a totally different direction, and I think something had to do with her kids, Cody and Aster,
Yeah.
and like I don't like when they start to incorporate stuff like that, but the
Yeah.
TV show handled everything I think a lot better, and they dove into other elements that I thought made more sense. The only thing I really liked about the second book, but it makes more sense because of what happened in the first book. So there's a character that um, is in place of Deb, if you remember the end. There's another character that's. Do you remember the end of the first?
Yes.
I mean, we're
Yes.
getting there.
Yeah.
Because we can't talk about it on the Sunday one because there's still like the people on there I haven't seen. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, there's someone else who gets taken. I'll say it off air in case if Adam's still listening. I don't want to spoil nothing for him.
Yeah. 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 No. Yeah. Let's not spoil anything.
Yeah,
Um. Yeah.
I'll give you the heads up on that
Yeah.
because it was really cool, and I'm curious to see if the TV show had done the same thing where they would go because it's pretty big. It was a pretty big change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You'll have to. Yeah. You'll have to tell me the difference. Yeah. Because I. Yeah. I didn't read any of the books, so I don't know. All I know
Yeah.
is this series.
I will say I did enjoy the hell out of that second book. It
Oh,
was
cool.
damn good. Yeah, it was a dearly devoted Dexter was the name of that.
Nice. Nice. How many books were there?
Was it 6 or 7 maybe?
Oh, really? That many? All right.
There might have been more to be honest. I I I didn't even look anymore at a certain point because I'm like, oh well, I'm enjoying the TV series, and like
Yeah.
because like I know a lot of people they bitched about like I think the third and fourth book. I think they said by the fifth one it was getting back into what it was supposed to be,
Hmm.
but there was still I think if you ask me a lot of damage that was kind of done.
No, that stinks. All right, Osla's
Oh,
there
eight. There were
8
books.
books. Wow, that's a lot. That's good.
Mhm.
So Osla says there's a reason the episode titles changed from dishes to titles in season 3. Remind me to tell you about it later when it happens.
Okay.
All right. My memory sucks, but I will try to remember that. But yeah, this was awesome. I am very much looking forward to next week when we get into episodes 3 and 4.
Yeah.
But until then, if you want, let everybody know what you've got going on for the rest of the week.
What the hell is? We're doing the toy thing tomorrow. Shit, I gotta record something. We're doing the toys with Tommy, Trina, and Slasher and Adam. So yeah, tune in. It's gonna be on my channel, Tommy the Guinea Pig Collective's channel, and on my Twitter. Friday we'll be talking about some stuff. I might get into that thing I was telling you about with the autism thing because boy was that an interesting stuff. I was listening to. I've been working at night. Really amazing of basically like these autistic kids with this kind of cognitive. They're on the same level with anybody else, but you wouldn't know it because of how poorly the medical system is, and they don't help these kids properly. But there was a mother who had 2 autistic kids who figured out how to communicate with them, and it's not just communication. Basically, like those kids who like they can't speak and everything, it's almost like they're not catatonic, but they have like the twitches and everything else. Their bodies are doing something totally different from what their brain is doing and how it functions. And in most cases, these doctors, they only test for the motor skill thing. So they think that these kids are all like on infant level learning abilities. And they're not. It's actually been proven that there's some that have an IQ higher than any of us.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that they figure out how they communicate and how they're telling perfect sentences and everything. One kid goes, "I'm trapped in my own body." He spells it out.
Wow.
And they break
Yeah.
it down, and it's really interesting. So I might talk about some of that, I think, on the Friday stream.
I'm looking forward to watching that series.
Yeah.
And Osla says, as an autistic person, I'm very intrigued. So where can people find out more about that?
On YouTube, there's actually a documentary called Spellers.
Right.
So yeah, it's these autistic kids who use like a letterboard on and they basically point they spell out the words with their finger. Like it is super interesting. It really is. But also not only that, how their connections with positivity, love, and God are throughout with the nonverbal autistics. And it's really amazing because they said they even could communicate telepathically with other autistic kids and the people in their lives that love them so much. So they have like a couple of a series of tests where they have like a mother or whatever parent or sibling on the other side of a wall, and they're looking at a bunch of like, different cards, and the autistic kid, he could point out exactly what card they're looking at.
Wow. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to
It's
watching
amazing.
that.
Yeah, it really is. Like I said, it's a tearjerker too, for sure. Because like a lot of it comes down like to the parents too. They say only parents of autistic kids trust other parents of autistic kids. The doctors have almost all betrayed them. And yeah, it is heartbreaking. Our medical system shit, complete shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, so I don't think I've ever said this on air before, but my oldest son has autism, and yeah, there's so much that the medical community does. They really do not know autism at all,
They
and
don't.
in in a complicating aspect is that it's not like it's very much, it can be very different person to person,
Mm-hmm.
and it even changes as the person ages.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard thing to study, and the medical community really hasn't I don't know if they've done enough, or they just don't know where to begin. I don't know.
They seem to not care. Is the thing,
Yeah.
because they're getting funding from other stuff, and there's a lot of money that's going through all this, and that's what's even more heartbreaking, because a lot of them who came up with a lot of this, and they help one another. Because there's a mother who does a TED talk and breaks it down too, because she shows a photo of her son who he looks like he's completely special needs in every way, shape, and form, and she asks a question about him, like, what do you think his IQ is? And she said, it's okay, and she goes, I'm his mother, so I know you might be a little nervous to answer this, whatever, but then proceeds to show some of his writings and stuff, and how eloquently he's actually speaking, but his body is doing the complete opposite. It's really it's amazing. But yeah, and again, the connection that they have with God, they said they all communicate and verbalize on something called the hill, which they think is like on another plane of existence altogether, that is closer to God, closer to the spiritual world, which is amazing. But that stuff isn't totally on the Speller documentary. That's something called the telepathy tapes. And you'll see, like, it looks like in like an old kind of cassette player is like the logo for this woman's YouTube channel, and there's about 10 episodes on there, and they break down all these different the different kids and the different families that they're talking to, and that's where you hear a lot more of that, where they get more into the spiritual world and stuff like that, and how love and positivity is something that's like a bigger connection between these kids, these families, and everything. And I'm telling you, it's really interesting, really amazing. And my hat goes off to Ian Carroll, because that's how I found all of this. I was listening to one of his YouTube channel things, and he was talking about this. I got curious, so like I clicked on a couple of things, and look how I was blown away. And then yeah, I found the documentary, and I was like, wow. Like I was listening and watching, and and wiping tears from my eyes as I was watching it.
Wow.
It's something else, because these parents have gone through so much, and these kids even more so. One, again, and we'll wrap it up, but one kid in particular, I think he hit the age of 20, and they didn't know, no one knew how to communicate with him. It's when he was 20 he found out how to do this.
Wow.
With the kind of spelling board, and at that point the parents were almost like, they were in shock and almost devastated at the same point of like, our kid has been trapped in his own body for 20 years. He wanted to verbalize and communicate with us, and he couldn't until now. And like, oh, it's something else. It really is. One of them, I think, graduated college as well. It's really something else. There's a kid named Vincent as well, I think he spoke the most eloquently out of all of them. Like his intellect was on another level. It's like that of almost like a college professor, compared to most of the other ones who, like, again, they had no idea. They had no idea what knowledge he had. And well, how do you know all of this? And that's what part of like the telepathy tapes is about as well. Because it's like, it's stuff that these kids were never known or saw, And one of them was kind of almost afraid to talk about it. That he goes, well, what? He goes, the internet. He kept saying he found out the internet. He goes, when? Mm-hmm. Oh, when everyone was asleep is kind of how he responded. But that's not what happened. He was seeing other stuff. That's, like I said, it's super interesting, and like I still need to watch more of that myself. The actual episodes of the podcast, telepathy tapes. But yeah, so.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Oh yeah. Between that and what they found in Egypt, like, we don't know shit about anything in this world or the ancient world.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you can find me everywhere as Vinny Art, at Vinny Art, on all social media and everything.
There it is. All right, and on Wednesdays I do a horror stream with. His channel is Wrestling with Horror 420. We do the horror movie of the week. We do that 8:35 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. It's simulcast on my channel, as well as ETEP. Well, his name is Pete, but I was introduced to him as ETEP, and that's all I can call him now.
Yep. He's like the Egyptian Polish Jew.
Yeah, yeah.
With that name.
Yeah. And
it's an ongoing joke, yeah. Don't worry.
But yeah, that's that's about it. And looking forward to doing this next week. And
and Sunday, yeah, we're continuing Dexter.
Yes, Dexter on Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Yep, I think it's episode 7 and 8. I think we're gonna be on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did 5 and 6.
Yes.
So yeah, this is gonna be 7 and 8. We're flying through this.
Yep.
Maybe we will do more seasons.
Awesome. That's music to my ears. I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to thank all you guys for hanging out with us, and anybody watching on the replay, thank you as well. Mm-hmm. Hope you all have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you back here next week.
Bon appetit.